What of you some yeah of guns yeah and on her streets yeah talking about David Lynch.
When people think of the greatest directors in the world, I'm guessing they probably think of Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese. For some fucking reason they may think of George Lucas. You know who I think of? I think of David Fincher, Brad Anderson, Shane Meadows, Christopher Nolan. But you know who's at the very top of the list?
I'm going to guess, considering the title of this episode, what you're about to say is going to be David Lynch.
It's David Lynch. I judge a good film on how much it stays with you afterwards. You know, like after the first time you saw There Will Be Blood and you wanted to become an oil tycoon and beat priests to death with a bowling pin. Or like the first time you saw Seven and realised that you'd never smile again. The first David Lynch film I ever saw was Mulholland Drive, and I just could not fucking get it out of my head afterwards. I mean, partially that was because there's lots of hot lesbians getting it on, and I sort of had to sort myself out. But, oh man, like, it left me with so many questions, and it scared me. I could not sleep afterwards. It was one of those films that, I don't want to say change your life, because that sounds really fucking melodramatic, but it's pretty magical. It's as close to perfect as any film has come yet, I think.
It's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the closest any film has come to that sort of like echelon of brilliance. I don't mind David Lynch, but as I'm sure we're going to find out throughout this episode, you're a much bigger fan of him than I am. I've seen a fair bit of his work, not as much as you. I appreciate it, but you know, I just don't think I would personally call him one of the best people in the world as you would.
But you've got to respect a man who does a film which features Nicolas Cage flipping out of a car and fight dancing in the desert.
Respect is one word.
Fear is another.
Yeah, that's an interesting film. I can't say it's brilliant or terrible. It's somewhere between the two. I don't quite know. It's got redeeming features
brilliant,
and it's got fucking horrible features as well. It does have Willem Dafoe wearing some tights on his head, looking even more rapey than normal.
Which is a feat. I like the fact that Lynch will just cast weird-looking people because they suit his stuff, like the one-armed man and the giant, and you know, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, you can't really go much wrong with this. Like, we need someone weird looking. Steve Buscemi's unavailable. Get Willem Dafoe.
We're going to try and get through this episode, I guess, without mentioning Dune too much. When you think he did Eraserhead,
Yep.
which is just, you know, nausea in a film, pretty much. You know, the soundtrack is just as much industrial noise as a million factories dying. Trent Reznor would feel ill listening to that. Then we've got The Elephant Man. Which, you know, is one of the few films that would make you cry regardless of how made of stone you are. There's Blue Velvet, which...
That's scary.
Yeah. What can you say about Blue Velvet?
I like his stuff, but he does always seem to put the most dickish of characters
He does horrible characters.
in his stuff.
Bobby Peru, Frank Booth, the Mystery Man. Well, Bob from Twin Peaks. One of my favourite TV shows of all time. It did get a bit shitty in the second series.
It's interesting. I think it's one of those things you've got to watch just to say you've seen it and just like appreciate something different. It's about as far-fetched from the most ordinary series you'd expect like that. I mean, you couldn't turn that on and then like watch Coronation Street next or some shit like that and say, oh wow, they're so similar.
No.
There's a lot of shit that goes on there. There's rape, there's murder, there's people stealing shit, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on.
There is.
There's a lot of bromance.
Always
There's really
good.
kick-ass native Indians throwing knives. You know, it's all good.
Or when you've got fucking ghostly white horses and David Duchovny in drag and...
That was
You know.
a massively brilliant addition to that. That set the series on a whole nother level. It's just when you see him in that. And he plays the fucking character so well. And he wasn't even... I mean, this was...
It was before the X-Files.
Yeah, this is before the X-Files, so he wasn't even that big back then. I know that's what really sort of sealed the deal for him.
But the people who would have seen David Duchovny in that and then seen him as Mulder in the X-Files, it was just like, oh god, it's that tranny.
It just goes as a tribute to his acting range.
So after Twin Peaks came Firewalk with Me, which was mondo disturbing. You know, there was the horrible subplot of, you know, a girl being raped by her dad in the series, and David Lynch was like, that was a really interesting part of that. I think we should just make a whole fucking film about it.
as soon as it gets to Fire Walk With Me, it's just sort of like all rape all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrifying.
And then after Fire Walk With Me was Lost Highway.
Which had some of the first Rammstein music.
Yeah, it did.
Which kind of
fucking hell. The soundtrack to Lost Highway was pretty good.
And had Marilyn Manson in back when he wasn't a complete loser. He was a partial loser.
Soundtrack was done by Trent Reznor, so always a plus. Sort of a prototype to the Social Network and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo soundtracks that he's doing now. So you see, David Lynch was ahead of the game there.
I like that film, but it's one of those things as well, like when you're trying to follow it in places, it's really difficult. I like films that make you think, but I don't like films you need a manual to work out.
Tell you what, it took me about 3 or 4 times to work out what the shit was going on.
I think it's great that you put out a piece of artwork that makes people question it so much, that makes them come up with different theories, and they're posting all this different stuff on the internet, which, 20, 30 years ago, this sort of thing wouldn't have been possible because people didn't have that ability to have the dialogue with each other. I think it's really good you do that, but at the same time, I do like films to be a little bit less obscure and weird than that.
You should probably never watch his latest film, Inland Empire. It's like, say, someone tried to make Finnegan's Wake into a film. Or in another way, let's say someone tried to make a film of an epileptic fit. Just the film equivalent of an epileptic fit. Or, those times when you're really, really ill and you're all feverish and you're just having like the craziest fucking dreams ever? That's Inland Empire. Since Inland Empire, all Lynch has been doing is his music. His album Crazy Clown Time is pretty fucking good. The one problem I have with it is that he's auto-tuned to fuckery through most of it.
I can't imagine he's the best singer.
Well, it's not like a T-Pain sort of way. But no, it's just like, it's a more 80s Depeche Mode, Pet Shop Boys sort of feel to it. But yeah, first track's got Karen O on it. And yeah, it's pretty good. Well done, Mr. Lynch. I'm desperate to see what he's going to do next. Because as much as Inland Empire is the most Lynchian and most bizarre fucking thing he's ever done, I don't want it to be his last film. I'd rather he does something that I enjoyed. Something that is actually a film rather than a crazy stream of consciousness bullshit that's just about, I don't know, Laura Dern getting stabbed with a screwdriver, a one-legged prostitute, and Terry Crews being a hobo. They keep talking about adapting the Stephen King novel Insomnia, which is really fucking weird, and I think David Lynch would actually suit that down to the ground. He's done a couple of adaptations before. There's that one film we won't mention, and Wild at Heart was actually an adaptation of a book as well.
Wow.
And The Straight Story is based on a true facts about a little old man who drove across America on his ride-on lawnmower.
I vaguely remember that, actually.
It's the least Lynchian of Lynch films. It's like a real heartwarming American tale. You'd think it had been directed by Gus Van Sant or Robert Zemeckis. There's not nearly enough decomposing corpses and scary black-skinned, by which I mean literally the colour black, like this, not Negroes.
Hey!
Burnt.
Okay.
Like blackened, hobo, in an alley, scaring a man to death. Not just a kindly old gent with his gardening equipment going to visit his dying brother.
He does look like he hasn't washed in a while, that little guy in the alley.
I tell you what, the man behind Winkies, that scene is just really fucking scary.
Because the worst thing as well is because you knew it was coming, so I was sat there watching you just sort of sat there. And it's like, when's this going to happen? It goes on for so long.
That's it.
And it just, you keep getting there. It's just like, it's like, oh, fuck off!
That's exactly why Lynch is such a good director, because he makes you jump with something that you know is coming for 4 minutes. Usually jump scares are out of nowhere. It's like, there's a window. Oh shit, a face. Or there's a cornfield. Oh shit, a bald rapist. But the Winky scene in Mulholland Drive, that's really, really clever shit. And it gave me mares for fucking weeks. I've literally had 2 or 3 nightmares about that guy.
You know what I think is scary about when her parents come crawling under the door?
Oh.
That would make me feel really weird if I was there in my house, smoke started coming through my door, my tiny parents came through. I wouldn't quite know what to do.
Scream and shoot yourself like she does, probably.
I don't know, I might put in a little jar or something, cut a couple of holes in for oxygen and just keep them there.
I'd really like it if David Lynch would direct one of our episodes.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how much he could feasibly direct, because it's not like we're stood here rehearsing lines or anything. We just go off on a random tangent about something. He pretty much just turned up just with some coffee and go, drink this. Now talk.
It would probably be less a couple of cunts in the countryside and more a couple of cunts with some big red curtains there and a phone and
dancing midget,
a lamp there. Welcome to the Black Lodge. Well, we've been a couple of cunts in the countryside. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, share, favourite and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you didn't enjoy it, maybe I'll send Frank Booth round your house, so think about that. Feel free to suggest a topic for us to talk about in a future episode, and we'll see you next time.
And remember kids, talking backwards is for professionals. If you want to try it, try instead just slurring your words like us ordinary drunks.